The storm began long before the rain. The air inside the glass office tower was heavy with tension, as if every heartbeat in the room waited for her next word. Outside, the city shimmered under the morning sun, unaware that somewhere on the 47th floor, a woman worth billions was tearing into her team with words sharp enough to cut steel. Every face in the room, from executives in tailored suits to young interns clutching their notebooks, reflected the same thing: fear. She had yelled before, but this time, something was different. Her anger wasn't just professional disappointment, it was personal, raw, and unrestrained. Her voice echoed off the walls like thunder. And yet, when her voice finally cracked into silence, when even the sound of her own breathing felt too loud, someone quietly picked up the scattered papers from the floor. Not one of her assistants. Not an executive. A janitor, mid-30s, plain gray uniform, rough hands, eyes tired but kind, bent down and started cleaning the mess no one dared to touch. For a second, she froze. The billionaire CEO, the woman feared and admired in equal measure, found herself speechless. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of calm hearts in a harsh world, take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to channel name. It helps us bring more stories like this to life. Her name was Evelyn Ross. Once celebrated as the youngest self-made billionaire in the city, she was known for transforming small ideas into empires and for her unforgiving temper. She had built everything from scratch after losing her family in an accident 10 years ago. Success was her armor, control her weapon, and power her only comfort. But lately, the pressure had begun to fracture even that. The man who silently picked up the papers was Daniel Brooks, a single father who worked double shifts just to afford his daughter's therapy. Life had not been kind to him. A car accident 3 years earlier had taken his wife and left his little girl, Emily, with partial paralysis. Since then, every night had been a battle between exhaustion and hope. He cleaned offices not because he lacked ambition, but because he refused to let his daughter ever go without care or love. To Evelyn, he was invisible, just another maintenance worker. But that morning, something about his calm presence irritated her. "You can stop that," she snapped, her voice still trembling from anger. "It's fine." He looked up and said nothing, just a polite nod, and kept picking up the shattered glass from the broken vase she'd thrown moments earlier. "Did you not hear me?" she demanded again, sharper this time. He finally looked her in the eyes. There was no defiance there, only quiet steadiness. "Yes, ma'am," he said softly. "But it's not fine. Someone could get hurt." Those simple words, spoken with neither fear nor pride, hit harder than any argument could. The entire room fell silent again, but this time, not out of fear of her voice. Out of shock. Evelyn turned away quickly, as if ashamed that his calmness had disarmed her. That day, the yelling stopped earlier than usual. The next morning, when she arrived, she noticed the floor spotless as always, but on her desk sat a small, handmade paper flower. A child's drawing lay beside it, a smiling sun and the words "Have a nice day," smiley face, written in a shaky, childish hand. It was from Emily, Daniel's daughter. Evelyn stared at it for a long time, then placed it in the corner of her desk. Over the next few days, she found herself watching Daniel more closely. He never spoke much, never complained. He greeted everyone with the same soft warmth, even when others ignored him. When people were angry, he smiled patiently. When something broke, he fixed it without being asked. And once, late one night when she stayed behind to finish reports, she overheard him talking to his daughter over the phone, gentle, reassuring, full of love. Something inside her began to shift. For years, Evelyn had believed that strength meant never showing weakness. But Daniel's quiet resilience challenged that belief every single day. He carried pain too, she could see it in his eyes, but unlike her, he didn't let it harden him. He still believed in people, in goodness, in trying. One evening, a thunderstorm trapped them both inside the building. The power flickered, and she found him checking every hallway to make sure no one was stuck in the elevators. When he noticed her standing by the window, lost in thought, he simply asked, "Rough day?" She almost laughed, a bitter, humorless sound. "Every day's a rough day." He nodded. "Then maybe you're overdue for a good one." She looked at him, puzzled. "How do you stay so calm, even when everything's falling apart?" He shrugged. You can't control the storm, he said quietly, but you can control whether you add thunder to it or not. His words lingered in her mind long after he left. The following week, Evelyn noticed Daniel didn't show up. The cleaning cart stayed untouched. The building felt strangely colder. She tried to ignore it, focusing on her work, but every time she glanced at the corner of her desk at Emily's little paper flower, she felt a weight she couldn't name. Finally, she asked around and learned that Daniel's daughter had been hospitalized. The company's contract didn't cover part-time workers, and he had been struggling to afford her treatment. That night, she sat alone in her penthouse, the city lights stretching endlessly below. For the first time in years, she felt something she had long buried: helplessness. She had all the money in the world, yet she couldn't shake the image of a man who swept her floors, going through pain she couldn't imagine and still finding a way to smile. The next morning, she visited the hospital. She didn't send her assistant. She went herself. Daniel was in the corridor, asleep in a plastic chair beside Emily's bed. His hands were folded on his lap, and exhaustion lined his face. When she saw the little girl, pale, fragile, but smiling in her sleep, something inside Evelyn broke. She didn't say anything. She just quietly left an envelope on the bedside table. Inside was a letter and a blank check. But when Daniel later found it, he didn't use the money. Instead, he came to her office the next week, still in uniform, and placed the envelope back on her desk. "Ma'am," he said gently, "thank you. But I can't accept this." She frowned. "Why not?" "Because you didn't give it to help her," he said, meeting her gaze calmly. "You gave it to quiet your guilt. What my daughter needs isn't your money, it's your heart." Evelyn's throat tightened. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Not out of disrespect, but out of truth. She realized he was right. Weeks passed. The office began to change. The yelling stopped. People began smiling again, speaking freely, laughing softly in corners they once feared. Evelyn no longer demanded perfection, she asked for honesty. She started having coffee with her employees, asking how they were, not just what they'd done. Daniel's influence, though quiet, spread like sunlight through the once cold halls. And one morning, she found herself at a charity event, not as a host, but as a volunteer. She was there because Daniel had invited her to see what he and his daughter were building, a small community project to help children with disabilities get therapy support. Evelyn listened to the laughter of those kids, watched the way Daniel guided Emily's wheelchair, saw how her eyes sparkled when she painted, and something inside her healed. That day, Evelyn Ross, the woman who once yelled at everyone, gave her first public speech where her voice didn't tremble with power, it trembled with emotion. She told the audience about how kindness had rebuilt her from the inside. She didn't mention Daniel's name, she didn't have to. He stood in the crowd, holding Emily's hand, smiling. When she finished, the applause was long and heartfelt, but nothing compared to the moment she walked down and knelt beside Emily. "Thank you," she whispered. The little girl grinned. "Daddy says you're nicer now." Evelyn laughed through tears. "I'm trying, sweetheart. I really am." Months later, her company launched a foundation to help single parents and children in need, inspired by one janitor and his little girl. Daniel became a coordinator for the program, while Evelyn found something money had never bought her: peace. She never yelled again. Because the man who cleaned her floors had taught her the hardest lesson of all. Real strength isn't in how loud you can be, it's in how softly you can change. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Channel Name. It helps us keep spreading stories that remind the world that kindness still matters. Speech balloon special request: comment below. Kindness changes everything. If you believe one calm heart can silence even the loudest storms.